Welcome to the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience Hall of Fame Award Ceremony. Filmed live at the MSU Riley Center in downtown Meridian.
It was the 3rd of June, another sleepy, dusty Delta day. I was out chopping cotton and my brother was baling hay. And at dinner time we stopped and walked back to the house to eat. And Mama hollered out the back door, y'all remember to wipe your feet. She said, I got some news this morning from Choctaw Ridge. Today, Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. Well, Papa said to Mama as she passed around the black-eyed peas, Billy Joe never had a lick of sense. Pass the biscuits, please. And there's 5 more acres in the lower 40 I got to plow. And Mama said it was a shame about Billy Joe anyhow. Seems like nothing ever comes to no good up on Choctaw Ridge. And now Billy Joe McAllister's jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. Well, brother said he recollected when he and Tom and Billy Joe put a frog down my back at the Carroll County Picture Show. Wasn't I talking to him after church last Sunday night? I'll have another piece of apple pie. You know it don't seem right. I saw him at the sawmill yesterday up on Choctaw Ridge. And now Billy Joe McAllister's jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. Well, Mama said to me, child, what's happened to your appetite? Well, I've been cooking all morning and you haven't touched a single bite. That nice young preacher, Brother Taylor, dropped by today. Said he'd be pleased to have dinner on Sunday. And oh, by the way, he said he saw a girl that looked a lot like you up on Choctaw Ridge. And she and Billy Joe was throwing something off the Tallahatchie Bridge. Well, a year's come and gone since we heard the news about Billy Joe. Her brother married Becky Thompson and they bought a store in Tupelo. There was a virus going round, Papa caught it and he died last spring. And now Mama doesn't seem to want to do much of anything. And me, I spend a lot of time picking flowers up on Choctaw Ridge and drop 'em into the muddy water off the Tallahatchie Bridge.
Arguably, no writer has introduced into public consciousness a more memorable date. It was the 3rd of June. But it was not simply a date she gave us, it was a place. Another sleepy, dusty Delta day. In just 11 words, Bobby Gentry propelled us, introducing us not just to an evocative setting and tragic story, but to one of the most remarkable and influential voices in country music history. From the opening chords, she mesmerized us with an elegant elegy to youth and the ache of love and life.
Ode to Billy Joe was the first record I ever made. Even if you weren't from the South, you could identify with the emotion and the human nature that was involved in the story.
Bobby Gentry was born Roberta Lee Streeter in Chickasaw County near Woodland, Mississippi, on the 27th of July, 1942. Starting piano at 3, she wrote her first song when she was 7 on a piano traded for a milk cow. Before her teens, she had learned to play the guitar and the banjo. After high school, she entered UCLA as a philosophy major, supporting herself as a model, a secretary, and by performing in nightclubs and country clubs before transferring to the Los Angeles Conservatory of Music. And then, in 1967, she wrote and recorded Ode to Billy Joe, winning 3 Grammys that year. The album replaced Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band at the top of the Billboard chart and reached number 5 on Billboard's Black Albums chart. In 2001, Rolling Stone magazine named Ode to Billy Joe one of the greatest songs of all time. But her fame is so much more than one song. Innovative and bold, she was a music pioneer, one of the first female artists writing her own songs, frequently playing every instrument on her tracks, while often insisting on a leading role in production decisions. Drawing on her country, folk, and blues influences, as well as musical interests that included soul, R&B, and opera, she used Mississippi imagery, the rich array of her life's experiences, and in her distinctive, sultry voice, blazed a path for herself and generations of female artists. Inside of a dozen years, she released 7 groundbreaking albums, including an award-winning gold album with her friend Glenn Campbell. She had 11 singles on the Billboard charts, appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, guest starred on The Carol Burnett Show, headlined in Las Vegas, hosted her own television series for both the BBC and CBS. And then in 1982, Bobby Gentry quietly retired. Though leaving an irreplaceable space in the entertainment universe, she left us with her remarkable legacy. 35 years later, Capitol Records reminded us of her impact and introduced her to a new generation, releasing her entire catalog as an 8-disc boxed set called The Girl from Chickasaw County. In 2020, she joined other legends in the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. And tonight, we celebrate her, her life, her music, and her unmatchable career.
A song becomes a folk song if it is absorbed into the culture of a particular region, and if it has any longevity to it. In 40 or 50 years, if people are still singing Ode to Billy Joe, I would love it.
Good evening. I'm Robert St. John. Welcome. Please join me in a round of applause celebrating Bobby Gentry's induction into the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Hall of Fame. Also, let's give another round to Tricia Walker for honoring Bobby and that great... Thanks to everybody for being here tonight. I hope you heard the announcement that we're filming here. So if you don't want to be on film, or if you're here with somebody you're not supposed to be with, you've been warned. Speaking of filming, the Institute for Southern Storytelling is here filming this event tonight. Anthony Thaxton is here actually doing double duty tonight. He's done the artist sketches and films you see here, and he's directing this, as well as Bill Ellison doing the narration here. Let's give them a round of applause. It's my honor to welcome each of you Since 2018, the Max has inducted 33 artists who have risen to the top, making a profound impact on our culture. Tonight, we add 5 more, a truly outstanding class of storytellers and icons. Just down the street, the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience is a shining beacon, and in the heart of that beacon is the Soaring Hall of Fame. Every enshrined artist there has made incredible personal achievements and has been selected for their ability to inspire future artists and entertainers in Mississippi and around the world. Like each class before, they've been selected through a public process guided by our nominating committee and a panel of electors, which I had the honor of serving on. Thank you for your service. Our next honoree is Shelby Foote.
There's an apprentice to be served to become a writer at least as much as to the apprentice as to be served to become a doctor or anything else. You have to study your craft, your art, your profession, as much as a lawyer or a doctor. Lawyers and doctors sometimes scoff at that notion, but they're wrong.
Shelby Foote was a painstaking writer, turning out up to 1,000 words a day, writing in longhand with a dip pen and inkwell because it made him take his time. Shelby Dade Foote Jr. was born in Greenville, Mississippi on November 17, 1916. He discovered the world of books in his teens in the library of influential Delta planner and author William Alexander Percy. Later, at the University of North Carolina and in the Army, he began to shape his craft as a journalist in peacetime and in war, then as a novelist. Well-read and well-traveled, Foote was largely self-taught, relying on personal experience and exacting investigation. In Greenville, he recognized the particular impact of proximity and geography. Growing up in a town of 15,000 meant you were connected by place. And as he discovered later in the Army, you got to know people. You were impacted by the same events, not always in the same ways, but you were shaped by their pulses and trials and expectations. He published his first novel, Tournament, in 1949, followed by Love in a Dry Season, Follow Me Down, September, September, and Shiloh, a battlefield he once wandered with Faulkner. While his novels were successful, it was an assignment to commemorate the centennial of the Civil War for Random House that pivoted Foote's literary and personal life. That short history mushroomed after 2 decades of work into a 3-volume opus, The Civil War, a Narrative. He favored compelling stories over academic footnotes, people of flesh and dimension in a bloody and incomprehensible war. But it was Ken Burns' groundbreaking documentary that placed Foote firmly in the national consciousness as he guided us through the Civil War with illuminating insight. Shelby Foote became a nation's storyteller. In the words of Ken Burns, he made the war real for us.
I was eating dinner one night, the telephone rang, and it was Robert Penn Warren, the poet laureate, the first poet laureate, and he had spoken this wonderful Kentucky accent, very elliptical. He says, thinking about the Civil War, thinking about how if you're going to do it right, you have to talk to Shelby Foote right away. Well, sitting on our shelf was the massive 3-volume, 3,000-page epic work by Shelby Foote. And I just sort of thought, this is, our guide. One does not ignore the poet laureate of the United States. So the first rolls that we exposed of 60-millimeter film was an interview we did with Shelby Foote. He was so present. He had researched every moment, and he had gone to the battlefield sort of perspective without any fictionalizing it. And he was also a Southerner who wrote without a Southern bias, but from a Southern perspective. We were in a van, all of us in a rented van, and he kept saying things from the back seat that I just finally said, damn it, Shelby. And I stopped the car, we opened the door, and we literally filmed him on the side of the battlefield road, because it seemed like every time we spoke to him, there was something new that he was going to give us, something that added a dimension that we hadn't seen.
A good example of how bloody it was is that in the year after the war, the state of Mississippi spent 1/5 of its total income on artificial arms and legs for veterans back from the war. That's an incredible figure.
It's Shelby who dominates. It was Shelby who sort of knew precisely what was going on.
Any understanding of this nation has to be based, and I mean really based, on an understanding of the Civil War. I believe that firmly. It defined us. It is very necessary, if you're going to understand the American character in the 20th century, to learn about this enormous catastrophe of the mid-19th century. It was the crossroads of our being, and it was a hell of a crossroads.
Until its airing, Shelby said he had not realized at all the strange and somewhat startling power of television. The monumental documentary ends with Shelby Foote reading his own words, words that had long before been drafted with a simple dip pen in his office.
Not out of selfishness does he concentrate on what matters in his art. He does it because he knows the whole thing's going to blow up in his face if he doesn't. If you're married and your wife wants a new coat, and you write some bad fiction so that she can have a new coat, you and your wife are not going to get along very well anyhow. So don't do that. You'll be so dissatisfied with yourself that the thing's going to blow up. Most writers, it's going to blow up anyhow, so perhaps it doesn't matter. Young people would do well not to pay any attention to styles and fads and concentrate on doing the very best they can with whatever talent they've been able to muster. The best thing to do in all accounts is go your own way, work very hard at your craft, be true to whatever precepts you've formed, and everything's going to be all right, or it won't. But I know nothing's going to be all right if you do it any other way.
Good evening. I'm John Peedy. Among the most influential moments of American television, one finds the live footage of the moon landing in July 1969, the airing of the miniseries Roots in the wake of our nation's bicentennial. And 35 years ago, this very year, the broadcast of Ken Burns' spellbinding PBS series, The Civil War. And at the center of that central national story is Shelby Foote, a little-known but much-admired scribe who, with a Mississippi drawl and encyclopedic knowledge, served as both orator and oracle to an audience of tens of millions. Foote was famous within a week of its airing. His public achievement came in the autumn of his life, just as it did for the 19th century generals and president he wrote about. A proud Southerner, Foote humanized rebel and Union soldiers alike, while firmly calling slavery, quote, a stain on the nation's soul, unquote. He brought the wounds of the war into the forefront of the American consciousness, reminding us anew of the cost of national division. One well-respected historian critiqued Foote by positioning for, in this historian's thoughts, that Foote positioned memory too highly over cold facts. I reject that. No one who knows of Foote's dedication, his exhaustive research, his time on the battlefields, his writing and rewriting would believe him to be short on the facts. But yes, he did put memory on paper with his nib pen. In doing so, he was following the path of his friend William Faulkner and Miss Welty in her Natchez Trace stories. As we Mississippians know, There are many truths beyond the edges of history, and we call such truths memory. Memory lingers from generation to generation. Memory has a weight and a presence like a water stain on the ceiling from an ancient storm that no one can seem to fully blot out. And that blotting, I mean the storm, and I mean the stain. Our other honorees, Bill Ferris and Natasha Trethway, have mapped that very ceiling in our house of breath. Shelby Foote came to his exquisite narrative style as a novelist. I was fortunate to conduct the final long interview of his life. Frankly, he did not wish to do it, but he consented because I was a fellow Mississippian and because it was for an educational CD for our troops at war overseas. He spoke of Faulkner in passing, but more of Proust and Tolstoy. He admires the sweep of their fictional works, and he applied that model to his nonfiction trilogy. Of his novels, I must praise the well-known Shiloh and the oft-overlooked Follow Me Down. But above all is his nonfiction masterpiece, The Civil War, a narrative that finally reached Appomattox a century and some years after Grant and Lee did. As our nation approaches the semi-quincentennial on July 4, 2026, it is fitting that we remember Shelby Foote, who created not only a monumental work, but a monument of words. We would do well to learn from his creation. Now it is my pleasure to welcome U.G. Foote, who will accept the Hall of Fame award in honor of his late father. Thank you.
Good evening. It's nice to be here. I can't tell you how delighted my father would have been to receive this honor in such good company, and especially here in his home state of Mississippi. My dad received many an invitation over the years, but I never saw him light up the way he did when he was called down home, and for almost any reason. He'd be much more excited, for example, to attend a bear hunt reunion in Onward, Mississippi, than to fly to Washington for some black tie event. I guess there's just no place like home. Some of my fondest memories of him are our frequent trips driving down from Memphis into the Delta, heading south towards his hometown of Greenville. On the way, we'd make pilgrimages to ancestral graves, visiting the dead, as my mother called these stops. I look forward to these Delta odysseys with him. Writing this reminded me of a funny thing about my father. When he was driving, he still lit his pipe. He would hold the Zippo in one hand, the pipe in the other, and steer the car with his knee as he was lighting it. And barreling down Highway 61 was pretty terrifying for this young passenger at those moments. At the time, I never wondered why we made these frequent trips or why he always asked me to join him. I know now he wanted me to commune with this vast expanse of land and to feel the connection he did to our Mississippi roots. It was Mississippi, and sometimes even our family history, that my father explored in his early novels. 4 of them are set here: Tournament, Follow Me Down, Love in a Dry Season, and Jordan County. The first 3 of those were written in 3 consecutive years, just down the road from here in Greenville. He was plumbing the depths of this place, his home place, searching and grappling with an understanding of all its beauty and pain. Then he turned to the Civil War, first in his novel Shiloh, then in his History of the War, a trilogy. He brought his skills as a novelist to a nonfiction subject, working in a method outside the mainstream of academic historians, And in the process, he elevated history and biography to the level of literature. In a letter to his lifelong friend and fellow Mississippian, Walker Percy, my father wrote, quote, "The battle scenes are lit by a strange, lurid light. I have never enjoyed writing so much as I do this writing. It goes dreadful slow. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to bail out the Mississippi River with a teacup, but I like it. I like it. All I want to do is work on my book, a great wide sea of words." And work he did each day for 20 years, completing in the end 3 volumes comprised of over 1.5 million words. Someone once asked him why it took him nearly 4 times as long to write the history of the war as it did to fight it. I recall he replied with a smile, "Well, there were a great many more of them than there was of me." I'll end here by quoting another letter, this time written to my father, from Walker Percy. After finishing his reading of the final proofs of the trilogy, Walker wrote to his friend, "Dear Shelby, yes, it's as good as you think. It has a fine, understated, epic quality, a slow, measured period, and a sustained, non-committal, almost laconic tone of the narrator. I've no doubt it will survive. It might even be read in the ruins." Indeed, it might. So thank you again for this opportunity and for honoring my father and for this opportunity for a grateful son to pass along our appreciation.
You can learn a story or learn a lesson from every person you meet in life if you just listen.
Bill, this word folklore, what does it mean to you?
It covers a pretty broad range of things. It includes the folk tale, it includes the music, it includes a large number of crafts and folk architecture. The skills are passed on from generation to generation, and these people are all part of a tradition.
Bill Ferris has lived a life surrounded by stories. He has dedicated that life to making sure we all marveled at them, wanting each of us to realize they were our stories and our traditions and our histories, and that each one of us has a responsibility to pass them along. He knew that stories and the telling of them, in word or song or canvas or scrap, in fabric or photograph, is what connects us. William Reynolds Ferris Jr. was born February 5, 1942, in Vicksburg, Mississippi. The eldest of 5 children, he grew up in town and on their Broadacres farm south down Highway 61. With a troubadour's ear, a curator's eye, and relentless curiosity, Bill had to tell about the South. He wrote about it and lectured on it in classrooms and explained it to politicians and bureaucrats. Our stories transport the listener, like a leaf turning on water, into another world, Ferris wrote. The story is the inescapable net that binds Southerners together. After an educational journey that led him to the Brooks School in Andover, Massachusetts, Davidson College, Northwestern University, Trinity College, Dublin, and the University of Pennsylvania, and through teaching posts at Jackson State University and Yale University, Bill co-founded the Center for Southern Folklore in Memphis, created the Center for the Study of Southern Culture at the University of Mississippi, and directed the Center for the Study of the American South at the University of North Carolina. And in the middle of all that, from 1997 to 2001, he served as the chair of the National Endowment for the Humanities, appointed by his friend, President Bill Clinton. He has authored more than a dozen books, including the extraordinary Pulitzer-nominated Encyclopedia of Southern Culture.
Black folk art and crafts reflect the spirit of life in rural Mississippi.
He has produced 15 documentary films on Southern folklore, received honors for his work in the humanities, both here and abroad, and won 2 Grammys for his boxed collection, Voices of Mississippi.
When I began my work As a young folklorist, I gave a talk, showed some photographs, and played some field recordings. Charlotte introduced me to Patty Black, who would become a very important mentor. But she also said, "I'd like to show you some of Eudora's photographs." And I didn't know she was a photographer at that point. And she laid some out on a table, and I was breathless. I had never seen such beautiful photographs. The photography of Welty, of Eggleston, and of many others in Mississippi is a tradition that I've always felt nurtured my own work in special ways.
Bill Ferris's Odysseys reveal that culture links us one to the other. It's handed down over generations, our interlocking circles of civilization.
I've just been learning from other people all my life and trying to share that knowledge and also encourage young people to follow with camera in hand and to try to capture their families, their communities, and to go through life listening and learning from others.
Y'all are in for a treat. Sharday Thomas Mallory and Chris Mallory of Rising Stars Fife and Drum Band are in the house. Sharday formed Rising Stars to carry on the legacy of her grandfather, the father of fife and drum music, Otha Turner, whom Bill Ferris documented extensively starting in the 1970s. He was creating new interest in North Mississippi Hill Country blues and opportunities for guys like blues legends R.L. and Cedric Burnside to get their due. Rising Stars performs on Ferris's Grammy-winning album, Voices of Mississippi. And if you haven't heard the Voices of Mississippi album, what you need to do as soon as you leave here on whatever app you stream music, you need to download and listen to that. It should be required listening for all Mississippians. Great news is on February 26th, Rising Stars will receive the Mississippi Governor's Award for Excellence in the Arts. Let's welcome them now.
Train and get you
Thank you.
My name is Kate Medley, and I'm a photojournalist and documentarian in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm glad to be home. About 20 years ago, I was a grad student working on a master's in Southern Studies at the University of Mississippi, when the founder of the program, William R. Ferris, was returning to Oxford to deliver a lecture. As a young documentarian myself, I knew of Bill's work and his legacy, and I was looking forward to meeting him. My grandmother, Bernice Nicholson, happened to be visiting from her home in Meridian, so I brought her to a reception honoring Bill. To be honest, it really wasn't her scene. She was in her 80s and she didn't know anyone. Academia was neither her language nor her interest, and she'd been a state fan all her life. But she was happy to sit by the fireplace and watch as things unfolded. I noticed Bill approach Bernice and introduce himself. He pulled up a chair and asked, "Mrs. Nicholson, where did you grow up?" "In Enterprise, Mississippi," she told him, a town of a few hundred people just south of Meridian. Bill asked if she'd known the old postmaster in Enterprise who had been his good friend. Well, Bernice lit up at the mention of this mutual connection. And she and Bill went on that night to talk about the culture of East Mississippi, its people, its landscape, its way of life. This was a small moment. There's no reason that Bill would remember it, but I will never forget it. Bill Ferris has a unique way of seeing those of us who previously may not have been seen, making us feel valued, and importantly, connecting us to a wider community in which we belong. We see this in the vital work that he has done to document the multitude of voices in our home state, the field recordings, the films, the photographs, many featuring what some might think of as regular folk. Bill shows us time and time again through his work and through the way he lives his life, how we are all inextricably connected. In preparation for tonight, I spoke with a handful of Mississippians who have been inspired by Bill. A young Black filmmaker told me that Bill is a lighthouse and, quote, "His light has inspired my own." Another student described how Bill is a constant reminder of the power of kindness and dedication to one's work. They talk about Bill's innate humility. He has the eye of a poet, the graciousness of a parish priest, the Rolodex of a Wall Street titan, the charm of a small-town mayor. Quote, "Bill understands Mississippi in all its complexity, the land, the people, the culture, the sins, the virtues. He knows this place and he loves it and he lifts it up for the world to see." These remarks come from Raven Jackson, Betty Gardner, Katie Blunt, Kimber Thomas, Stuart Rockoff, and Tom Allen. So Bill does this thing when he sees me. He gently takes hold of my shoulders and he looks me in the eyes and he says, "Kate, we are so proud of you." And despite the fact that Bill has probably done this with every single person in this room, I feel that genuineness of his appreciation deep in my bones every single time. And so, Bill Ferris, as we gently grab a hold of your shoulders tonight, I want you to feel the appreciation and love deep in your bones as we say, "Mississippi is so proud of you."
Thank you, Kate. Kate Medley, my beloved friend, a gifted photographer and filmmaker who can also do a stem winder of an introduction. Thank you also, Anthony Thaxton, for your exquisite filmmaking and editorial work on Southern legends like Eudora Welty, Walter Anderson, and many others. Thank you, Sharday Thomas and Chris Mallory, for performing the magnificent fife and drum music from Gravel Springs, Mississippi. Thank you. Music that is the anchor, the root of our great blues tradition. My wife, Marcy Cohen Ferris, could not be here tonight. She's teaching and sends her regrets. In her place, I am thrilled to have our daughter, Virginia Ferris, an archivist, librarian, educator at North Carolina State University, with me here tonight. Without her, I can tell you I would not have made it through the snow and ice and the nightmare of airports on the way here the past 2 days. I also want to thank the many family and friends who are with us tonight for this very special occasion. And last but clearly not least, I thank Penny Kemp, Benjamin Douglas, Marty Gamblin, Greg Moranto, Philip Bolin, and their amazing team at the Max for creating this magical evening. We gather tonight to pay homage to artists, writers, and musicians whose creative genius produced treasures that endure in our hearts. Those treasures range from Shelby Foote's Civil War trilogy to Natasha Trethewey's poems in Native Guard that celebrate an all-Black Union Army unit of formerly enslaved men during the Civil War. They capture places like William Faulkner's Yoknapatawpha County, people like Billy Joe McAllister. They build bridges across troubled waters, bridges that are inspired by a place called Mississippi, in a state said to have 2 capital cities, Memphis and New Orleans. Much of our life is rooted in rural and small town worlds. Our inductees tonight capture and celebrate those worlds with special power. Mac McAnally reminds us of the wooden porches, rundown houses, mildewed sofas in grown-up yards. Driving past them, I am reminded where we come from and where we are. We are only passing through. And Natasha Trethewey recalls that then there are women clicking their tongues in conversation, carrying their loads on their heads, their husky voices, the washpots and irons of the laundresses call to me. Bobby Gentry shows us how life and death are as familiar as passing biscuits at the dinner table. A year has come and gone since we heard the news about Billy Joe, and brother married Becky Thompson. They bought a store in Tupelo. There was a virus going round Papa caught it, and he died last spring. Now, Mama doesn't seem to want to do much of anything. And me, I spend a lot of time picking flowers up on Choctaw Ridge and drop them into the muddy water off of the Tallahatchie Bridge. My work was inspired by the farm in Warren County where I grew up, by black families who worshiped in Rose Hill Church, where I attended services as a small child, and by my grandfather, who told me he was raised on cornbread and recollections. I am grateful to the people of Mississippi and to the family and friends in Vicksburg and Warren County who raised me. My life as a writer, photographer, and filmmaker has been dedicated to preserving and sharing Mississippi voices, and I am grateful to the Macs for honoring that world. The Mississippians featured in the Macs were gatekeepers along my journey to capture our state's musical, literary, and artistic traditions. Here at the Macs, they join hands together. Tonight we celebrate the cultural guardians who share our state's rich history and culture with future generations. Their work and the work of the Macs is truly a national treasure for which I am forever grateful. And tonight, more than ever in our history, these voices are critical to our future. They will be the foundation in which we build a better world for our state, for our nation, and for our world. Thank you.
Mark Doty has written, our metaphors go on ahead of us, so I think that's true. The poems know more than I do.
In 2012, Mississippi Poet Laureate Natasha Trethewey was named Poet Laureate of the United States, becoming the only person to hold the position for both state and nation. On the occasion, Librarian of Congress James Billington said, "Natasha Trethewey is an outstanding poet historian in the mold of Robert Penn Warren, our first poet laureate. Her poems dig beneath the surface of history to explore the human struggles that we all face. It is her ability to weave the present and the past, to engage the public and the personal, and to give language to the unsaid that makes Trethewey's poems of such lasting import." In domestic work, Trethewey's award-winning first book of poetry, she draws her words from photographs of poor Black Americans in the early 20th century. Through images now sifted through her memory of family and place, her words expose revelation.
And I think as a poet, I'm most attuned to the visual image. I'm most drawn to exploring it even before any other images that come to us through the other senses. I turn to photographs, as that kind of window into a place, a particular time or historical moment.
Natasha Trethewey was born in Gulfport, Mississippi on April 26, 1966, in a segregated maternity ward on the 100th commemoration of Confederate Memorial Day. The daughter of a white poet from Canada and a black social worker from Mississippi, she was of two worlds, illegal and embraced, aware and mystified. Her mother told her she was the best of both worlds. Her work, both poetry and prose, investigates life and belonging and suffering, pressed through the prism of love, the disassociation of divorce, and the torment of murder. Her mother's murder and her father's urging pushed her toward poetry, where she has expanded the structures of poetry and deepened the emotion of prose in a career that has been awarded by her peers and rewarded by her readers. She has published 5 collections of poetry, including Native Guard, for which she won the 2007 Pulitzer Prize. 2 memoirs, Beyond Katrina, a meditation on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and she created the PBS series Where Poetry Lives, a body of work that has reached across the literary landscape and around the globe. But it was just off Highway 49 in the shotgun house of her maternal grandmother where she began to gather the memories and images that swirl within her work. There, with books and records and the World Book Encyclopedia on the shelves and her grandmother's collages adorning the walls, she began to quilt together her miracle of words that leapt into our literary world.
Well, I think it's about, for me, when I think about Mississippi, for example, I don't imagine that I will ever live in Mississippi. And yet, it is absolutely the place that I hold on to. It is, to me, who I am. Because, in my head, I am Mississippi. I feel like it's Mississippi that made me.
In her work, the geography of a place is more than just a map on paper or a series of signs. It is the beginning frame of being and imagination. Her place is the landscape of memory.
I also think about, on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, the way the natural world both reveals and at the same time conceals certain things about the past. And that there's the potential for revelation if we're only willing to sort of look closely at it.
Natasha exemplifies these ideas in her reading of Pulitzer Prize-winning Elegy for the Native Guards.
We leave Gulfport at noon, gulls overhead trailing the boat, streamers, noisy fanfare, all the way to Ship Island. What we see first is the fort, its roof of grass, a lee, half reminder of the men who served there, a weathered monument to some of the dead. Inside, we follow the ranger, hurried though we are to get to the beach. He tells of graves lost in the Gulf, the island split in half when Hurricane Camille hit, shows us casemates, cannons, the store that sells souvenirs, tokens of history long buried. The Daughters of the Confederacy has placed a plaque here at the fort's entrance, each Confederate soldier's name raised hard in bronze, no names carved for the Native Guards, 2nd Regiment, Union men, Black Phalanx. What is monument to their legacy? All the grave markers, all the crude headstones, water lost. Now fish dart among their bones, and we listen for what the waves intone. Only the fort remains, near 40 feet high, round, unfinished, half open to the sky. The elements, wind, rain, God's deliberate eye.
My name is Don Allen Mitchell. I'm a professor of English and I direct the honors program at Delta State University. As a great American poet, Natasha Trethewey is at home in metaphor. But I would argue her true home is memory. Natasha and I are both at home in memory, which is key to our friendship. We don't see each other often enough, but when we do, our conversations tend towards recollection. Her words lead me down a highway of memory. Consider the road to Meridian from the Delta, south on Highway 49 East, past Greenwood, across Highway 82, and up the Choctaw Ridge, over to Kosciuszko, down through Philadelphia, then on to Meridian. It is midwinter in the flatland. The landscape is muddy, beige, and cold. The stubble from the cotton fields burned off months ago. The Delta is months away from planting, but the cycle will soon return. I think of cotton. My personal memories of the plant are usually from a car window. I recall fleeting glimpses at high speed, shadow and light flickering through the rows at 70 miles per hour. A crop duster swooping down from overhead, just missing the power lines. For Bill Ferris, memories of cotton fields echo the blues of Son House, Son Thomas, and Sonny Boy Williamson 1 and 2. Music that played on the jukeboxes in places like the Owl Club in North Gulfport, owned by Natasha's uncle son. Natasha's Mississippi Gulf Coast-born grandmother, Loretta Dixon Turnbow, did not grow up around cotton. When she traveled north during the Great Migration, she mistook cotton fields for white gladiola flowers. A false memory, but a memory that was true to her. How different the sweep of Southern history would be if Mississippi had been a gladiola empire. Fields of flora stretching to a red and violet sunset, to God and to the horizon. In the poetic memory of Natasha Trethewey, she writes that she returns to a field of cotton. Hallowed ground, as slave legend goes, each bowl holding the ghost of generations. Those who measured their days in the heft of sacks and lengths of rows, whose sweat flecked the cotton plants, still sewn into our clothes. Even though I've read those lines dozens of times, it always gets me right here. Memory can devastate us. Memory can paralyze us. But Natasha's work helps sustain us. Her words carried me through my Delta-born father's slow death from dementia. His memories disappearing like cotton bolls plucked from a stalk. Memory work is a term I've come across while collecting oral histories. It is work that is hard labor. Memory work compels one to reflect on one's own memories, to cross-reference them with others who may see the world differently, to hear others' memories, and to try to understand. When she was a child, Natasha was adjusting to a new home in Atlanta. So her mother, Gwen, decorated a dim space beneath the stairs with stars like the cosmos, with homemade styrofoam planets and glitter constellations bought from a thrift store. Natasha recalls, instead of trying to brighten it, we would make use of the darkness. Like the night mind at work, a place of dreams, creative and fertile. That memory of a mother's love is eternal. Even in the darkness, there is light. Let the hard work of remembering sustain us all. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce my friend and my fellow memory worker, Natasha Trethewey. And welcome her into this esteemed Mississippi Hall of Fame. Natasha, I didn't know most of your relatives, but I knew your dad, and I know he is proud of you. Gwendolyn, Loretta, Son, and Sugar, as they look on from the cosmos, are proud of you. Brett, Joey, all your extended family, and your Mississippi friends are proud of you. This room is proud of you. And I am so very proud of you, my fellow Mississippian. May Natasha's room beneath the stars brightly shine tonight. I guess I'm supposed to give you this.
Gotta take this. Thank you. You know, I think in any writer's life, but particularly in mine, and as a person, what I've wanted more than anything was to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. I feel that tonight, in the words of my good friend, Don Allen Chip Mitchell, and in the imagery and storytelling of that remarkable documentary. Often when I stand at podiums like this to give a reading, I have to begin by telling the audience something about why I write, why I became a writer. A lot of you already know it now, that I was born on Confederate Memorial Day, exactly 100 years to the day, that the holiday glorifying the lost cause, white supremacy, and the attempt to destroy the Union in order to maintain slavery was first celebrated. In 1965, my parents had to break the law, 2 laws, in fact, in order to be married. They went to Cincinnati, Ohio, where it was legal to be married, and that was one law that they broke as Mississippians. And then they came back married to the state of Mississippi. It was illegal then, and in as many as 20 other states in the nation when I was born, rendering me illegitimate in the eyes of the law, persona non grata. As in W.H. Auden's memorial to the great Irish poet, William Butler Yeats, Mad Ireland hurt you into poetry. My Mississippi, with its terrible beauty and its brutal history of racial violence and oppression, inflicted my first wound, hurting me into the artist I would become. Inasmuch as wounding is so much a part of what makes an artist, so too is love. And I had plenty of that growing up, from my mother and father, my grandmother, my extended family in Gulfport, who are all gone now, but whose legacy of love lives on in me. There is also the great love of place, of landscape. I suspect I share a history of both being hurt into art and having the fierce love of my ancestors and this place with many of the folks with whom I now share this great honor. James Baldwin wrote, "This is the only real concern of the artist, to recreate out of the disorder of life that order which is art. What I have been given, the wounds of history that I have received, and the personal wounds, are not burdens. They are gifts. And I am deeply grateful for the great gift of this recognition by this glorious Max Museum and the place that made me, my Mississippi, the one true place I call home. Thank you.
When I was a boy, 4 houses down from me was a family with an only child, and she was the only girl in this old world that could make me smile. Down the road.
After writing for and performing with Jimmy Buffett and his Coral Reefers for more than 40 years, Mac McAnally and Buffett seemed divinely linked. Buffett acknowledged it in his 1980 album Coconut Telegraph with his gracious dedication for Mac, who reminds me of me 7 years ago.
I grew up in the northeast corner of the state. I am a proud Mississippian.
I tend to go back to the small town where I feel like I understand things the best, and that's where most of my writing comes from.
At the age of 13, Mac convinced his father, who was also his high school principal, to allow him to pursue music full-time. Shortly after, he joined Dean and the Reefers, playing gigs in a lime green polyester suit that once belonged to George Jones. Then he became a studio musician at the legendary Muscle Shoals studio around the time he got his first driver's license. Probably nobody thought this teenager who played in honky-tonks on the outskirts of nowhere, who stayed home in Nashville for years afterward to write songs for other folks so he could watch his girls grow up, and who joined another group of reefers that would play just about everywhere, would become arguably the most acclaimed musician in country music. The Mississippi sage Webb Wilder once said, "The heroes of your heroes are from Mississippi." And well, ask your musician friends and they'll tell you their hero is Mac McAnally.
I like music, blues and Dixieland.
Lyman Corbett McAnally Jr. was born in Red Bay, Alabama, and raised in the community of Belmont, Mississippi. He was surrounded by gospel and bluegrass and country music in those years, immersed in it. His early appearances were at the First Baptist Church in Belmont, where his mother played piano. He played the piano too. And today, hand him something with strings, anything with strings, and he'll play it.
Till the lights go on and the stage is set and the song hits home and you feel that sweat. It's my job.
As a teenager, he started writing songs, turning conversations and circumstances, people and places into insightful and discerning musical stories and into hit songs for a who's who of music. Over his career, in addition to writing and producing for so many others, he has released more than 15 albums of his own. Among his numerous awards and honors, Mac has received and hosted the Mississippi Governor's Awards, was inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, and he has won the Country Music Association Musician of the Year Award so many times, 10 to be exact, perhaps they should add his name to it. For a man who has said, "I was born without the ambition to be the guy in the middle of the stage," he has certainly found it.
Some say it's a backward place, narrow minds on the narrow way, but I make it a point to say that's where I come from. Yeah, that's where I come from. I'm an old Mississippian.
My vantage point is because of the particular family that I fell into and the particular town that I landed in and the particular group of whittling old men exaggerators that I grew up amongst are big ingredients in what I do. So I would want Mississippi to know that I'm grateful because I got something that's not available in stores.
All right. As honored as I am to have been asked to MC tonight, and I'm truly honored because I am a huge fan of the Max Museum and its mission, and really more than anything, what it does for the children of this state who visit that wonderful place just down the street. I am doubly honored that I was asked to make this next introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to stand here tonight and introduce someone I'm proud to call my friend, Mac McAnally. That's not a term I throw around lightly. Mac is not just one of the most talented individuals I've ever met. He's also one of the kindest, most generous, humble, and hardworking men I've had the honor to know. Mac grew up in Belmont, and he spent his life crafting music that tells stories, moves hearts, and brings joy to everyone lucky enough to hear it. For as long as I can remember, Mac's been playing, writing, and creating, and his impact on the music world is second to none. Over his remarkable career, he's released more than a dozen albums. He's written hit songs for some of the biggest names in country music. You saw him up there. And his songs have been recorded by legends. For decades, Mac was a vital part of the Coral Reefer Band and Jimmy Buffett. And he was also Jimmy's right hand. He's traveled the world bringing his talent and a piece of Mississippi with him everywhere he goes. He's played on countless records. And here's the thing about Mac. I was thinking right before I came out here earlier, we were having dinner at one of my restaurants in Hattiesburg one night, and we were talking music as we do, and I'm a huge music fan, and I love music, and I can remember talking about an artist with Mac, and I went on and on about this artist's first two albums and how they were better than anything he had done since. And I was trying to get into detail and be kind of a music critic on the music and the way it was recorded and all that stuff. And about 4 months later, I ended up on that CD I was waxing poetically about with Mac, and he was all in the credits on that. He had played all over that album, but didn't say a word at dinner. And that's the way Mac is. You just never know. If you go to an AllMusic page and look for Mac McAnally, it's literally thousands of albums he's played on, but you'll never hear that from him. So whether it's as a session musician, songwriter, or producer, Mac is simply in a league of his own. Mac's work hadn't gone unnoticed. He's a 10-time, as Bill said, a 10-time CMA Musician of the Year, and he shares that honor with the legendary Chet Atkins. What Bill Ellison didn't say in that great narration is that about 6 years in, after he'd won 6 in a row, he went to the CMA and said, "Hey guys, that's enough. I need to remove my name from consideration." He won 4 more times. Finally, I think he talked them into changing the term and the consideration and the way that honor was done. And so he basically talked himself out of receiving any more. Otherwise, we'd be about 16 or 17 in at this point. In 2007, he was inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, and in 2019, he earned a star on the Music City Walk of Fame. These honors are just a part of a career filled with achievements, but of all the awards, none tell the full story of who Mac McAnally is. What truly sets Mac apart is his heart. When I started my charity Extra Table, Mac didn't just lend a hand, he carried the cause. Many times at his own expense, he performed 5 symphony concerts across Mississippi to raise awareness and funds for those who suffer from food insecurity in Mississippi. Those concerts were the spark that helped Extra Table grow into what it is today, delivering over 6 million healthy meals to 63 feeding agencies across our state at no cost to those agencies. If that wasn't enough, Mac donated all of the proceeds from Southbound, an album derived from those concerts, to Extra Table. That's who Mac is. I've always believed that great art has a sense of place, whether you're talking about Monet's Gardens, Gershwin's New York, or McAnally's Mississippi. The best art is grounded in something real. Mac's Mississippi runs through every note he plays, in every word he writes. He's done more to promote the beauty, culture, and spirit of our state than all the CVBs and tourism bureaus combined. Mac is everything good about Mississippi. He's a storyteller and one of the finest in a long tradition of Mississippi storytellers. My high school teachers wanted me to study Faulkner and the rest. While I respect Faulkner, I found myself more drawn to the musical stories Mac tells. Mississippi's lucky to claim him, but the truth is, we all are. Mac McAnally represents the best of who we are and what we can be. Whether he's making music, giving back, or just being Mac, he inspires us to be better. Please join me in welcoming to the stage my friend and your friend, the incomparable Mac McAnally.
I am envious of whoever Robert has mistaken me for. To be honest, I would be so honored just to be in this room listening to these eloquent words from these wonderful, talented Mississippians all night long. I feel I feel more like maybe I deserve of a seat somewhere back in the third to the last row. I am so grateful to come from the people and the place that I come from, and I owe so much of that to my work. My two sisters are here tonight. They're both educators. My dad was an educator, which points to the irony of my achievement being finishing the 10th grade. But I'm probably the least educated inductee, and I'll try to represent the high school dropouts as well as I possibly can. What a stupid thing I did. But they gave you my name in the video, Lyman Corbett McAnally Jr. My father was named after a preacher and a boxer. I tell everybody we're a violently religious family. My mom, Miss Ella Mary McAnally, was a wonderful gospel piano player, and she played at churches on Sunday morning and Sunday night and Wednesday night, and she played all-day singings and those things that the Baptists called associations, which are all-day preachings. And I grew up sitting at the edge of the piano bench with her, and she played every funeral and every wedding that anybody ever asked her to, and I don't believe she ever charged a nickel for that. She just felt like that was her calling and her gift, and I was too bashful to think that I had a calling. I was too bashful to ever go and attempt to have a career in music. So I would also, in addition to I need to thank a bunch of people who are here tonight. I got management and great friends, but I also need to thank the 8 or 9 guardian angels that I have worn out in the course of my life, because it really is, it takes a series of daisy-chained Old Testament miracles for me to end up talking to you this evening. I was too bashful I never even played my songs for my parents growing up. And somehow or other, I got a record deal, and I got to work in Muscle Shoals, and I ran early on into my fellow Mississippian, Mr. Buffett, who wrote me a note and said, we're both storytellers, and we're both Mississippians, and we're going to be friends. And he believed in me before I believed in myself, and I certainly would not be on this or any other stage if it weren't for Jimmy. We're very grateful to that. So grateful to my family. So grateful to my community. One of the great perks of growing up in a small, close-knit community is you can see a couple of things quicker. You can see how much benefit there is in getting along. Don't take that for granted. It's really easy not to get along, but it's so much better to get along. In the modern society, we tend to arrive at just thinking we only need to hang around people that we agree with everything, and it's better to get along. The whole world gets better. Also, you probably know this by this point, but in the context of all of the eloquent speeches that you've heard, I'm subjecting you to a fragment of so far a 67-year on-running, unprepared statement. You take the guitar away from me, and it's terrible. But I also have to thank the Macs for what they're doing, because when I said about what I was doing as a teenager, I didn't know what I was doing, and it was very hypothetical that there could ever be anything come from it other than what I scribbled onto a page or tried to memorize as I played guitar. But because of what the Max is doing, it is more obvious to the younger generations that Mississippi, in addition to being 50th at quite a few things, we're also maybe the best possible place in the United States for the artistic endeavor. And because of the Max, the newer generations can get that. I'm so inspired by Shelby and by Bill and by Bobby Gentry. And Natasha's a little younger than me, but it's amazing to me what she's done. And she's a Pulitzer Prize winner. It has to be less hypothetical for a kid starting out right now, up and down the road in Scuba or Belmont or Okolona or Upor or wherever we're popping up, and we are popping up. That good things are possible. This, I joke that spare time is this major export of Mississippi, but you can do something with that, and I am so grateful. I got so many people to thank that I'm forgetting left and right, but I just have to say there's never been a time in my life that I wasn't proud to be from Mississippi, and it's just occurred to me, along with this honor, what a sweet thing it is that Mississippi might be proud of me. Thank you, guys. See if I get any smarter over here. Well, they asked to play a couple of songs. This one is the first song that I ever had the privilege of singing with Jimmy Buffett. It's one that I wrote about doing your best at whatever it is that you do. And I realize that's easy for me to say because I have a cool job. But when I wrote this song, I did not have a cool job. I was working on Highway 25, North Mississippi, repaving. I didn't know anything about that. I was a teenager. I wore Converse tennis shoes to my first day on the job in the middle of July. Asphalt has to be over 300 degrees to put down. My shoes were melted off my feet before 11 a.m. And I told anybody that would listen, which was nobody, that this job sucks. And like a lot of things that suck, it was a teachable moment. it occurred to me during the course of working that job for a little while that it doesn't matter if you have a good job or a bad job. It's just important to do your best at whatever it is that you're doing, because at the very least, that's the shortest path to a job that sucks less. I'm told I'll never make it as a motivational speaker, but I did try to put that message into a song, and I put it on one of my unintentional collector's items CDs. And about 4,000 or 5,000 of my friends and family bought it and were moved by the message in that song. One of those friends was Jimmy Buffett, and he put it on one of his albums. And 750,000 of his friends and family bought and were moved by the message in that song. And you would think, coming from my humble upbringing, that I would be content with that, but nope. As far as I'm concerned, until I can get Protestants and Catholics and Democrats and Republicans and boxers and briefs to all hold hands and sing this song like it's We Are the Frickin' World or something, I just got to go around one Riley Center at a time and tell people that it's my job.
Last night I was sitting on a curb. Didn't know what about, but I was feeling quite disturbed. Street sweeper came whistling by, he was bouncing every step. It seemed strange how good he felt, so I asked him while he swept. He said, it's my job to be cleaning up this mess, and that's enough reason to go for me. It's my job to be better than the best, and that makes the day for me. Got an uncle that owns a bank, he's a self-made millionaire. Never had anyone to thank, never had no one to care. He always seemed kind of sad to me, and I asked him why that was, and he told me it's because in my contract there's this clause that says it's my job to be worried half to death, and that's the thing people respect in me. It's my job, but without it I'd be less than what I expect from me. Lazy most all my life, writing songs and sleeping late. And any manual error I've done was purely by mistake. If street sweepers can smile, then I've got no right to feel upset. But sometimes I still forget till the lights go on and the stage is set and the song hits home and you feel that sweat. It's my job to be different than the rest, and that's enough reason to go for me. It's my job to be better than the best, and that's a tough break for me. It's my job to be cleaning up this mess, and that's enough reason to go for me. It's my job to be better than the best, and that makes the day for me.
Well, I got one that seems like it applies that I'm going to send us out with. This is a little bit of back where I come from, and I'm so proud to be back where I come from this evening. In the town where I was raised, the clock ticks and the cattle graze. Time passed with amazing grace back where I come from. You could lie on the riverbank, paint your name on the water tank, or miscount all the beers you drank back where I come from. You
Get back where I come from, where I'll be when it's said and done. And I'm as proud as anyone, that's where I come from. We learned in Sunday school who made the sun shine through. I know who made the moon shine too. Back where I come from, that's the truth. Blue eyes on a Saturday night, tan legs in the broad daylight. TVs, they were black and white. Back where I come from. Get back where I come from, where I'll be when it's said and done. And I'm as proud as anyone, that's where I come from. Some say it's a backward place, narrow minds on the narrow way. But I make it a point to say that's where I come from. Yeah, that's where I come from, where I'll be when it's said and done. And I'm as proud as anyone, that's where I come from. Back where I come from, I'm an old Mississippian. And I'm as proud as anyone, that's where I come from. That's where I come from.
Thank you so much. Thanks to the Max. Thanks, Robert St. John. Thanks to every one of the amazing inductees.
All right, what a night, huh? All right, let's give everybody a big round. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the president and CEO of the Max. Please welcome Penny Campbell.
What an amazing evening. I have one more special tribute. This past October, we lost a gentle giant. And although Marty Gamblin is not with us physically, there is no question he is here in spirit. Marty enjoyed a 40-year career in music in Nashville and Los Angeles, where he helped launch the careers of Dorothy Moore, fellow Hall of Famer Charlie Pride, and Alan Jackson, just to name a few. He served as a CEO of Glenn Campbell Music and many other roles in the music industry before returning home to Mississippi. He was the founding director of the Max before it was out of the ground and the guiding force behind this Hall of Fame. A consummate gentleman, a proud Mississippian, his love of family, community, music, and of all things, Mississippi arts and culture was undeniable. We honored him earlier today with a star on the Walk of Fame, and we know that he will live on in and through the Max and the Hall of Fame he helped build. Join me in remembering him and surrounding his family who are here tonight with love. Thank you for sharing Marty with us. Finally, Thanks to everyone who made tonight possible. In particular, I want to thank our sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi and Visit Meridian, underwriters for tonight's event. Let's give them a round of applause. Special thanks also to the nominating committee, panel of electors, staff and volunteers. I see you, they're here, they're back there. They've been busy for a long, long time making this happen. The Thaxtons, the Institute for Southern Storytelling, the presenters, performers, and of course, the 5 inductees we honor tonight. We are so thankful for their incredible gifts. Now, I'm the only thing standing in between you and a drink. So all of you are invited to the Max for a reception right after you walk out these doors. If you're not familiar, just 2 blocks south. Follow the crowd or take the trolley. But do one thing for me. Please come join us. We have food, we have entertainment, of course. The Mississippi School of the Arts students will be performing upstairs and all of the permanent exhibits. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say upstairs, then you haven't really been to the Max. So please come, enjoy the food, enjoy the drink, enjoy the entertainment. I'm so happy that you are here tonight. But before we go, I'm going to ask this incredible talent to come back out. If everyone will come join me, y'all will get everybody from back in the back. Come on. I'm calling you out here one more time. And Mac, I'm going to lean on you and ask you if you'll do us a solid. You know what you gotta lead us out with, right? Mac will lead us out with a chorus of Back Where I Come From. We'll close the show. Y'all hit the streets, and I'll see you at the Max.
Thank you, Penny. Sing along if you know it, and pretending is allowed. I make it a point to say that's where I come from. Yeah, that's where I come from, where I'll be when it's said and done. And I'm as proud as anyone. That's where I come from. One more. And back where I come from, I'm an old Mississippian. And I'm as proud as anyone. That's where I come from. That's where I come from. God bless Mississippi. God bless the Max. God bless the United States of America. Thank y'all so much.
Thanks for watching the Hall of Fame Awards ceremony. To learn more about and support the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience, go to msarts.org.